I will call the meeting to order.
The meeting has been posted according to open meeting laws.
Roll call.
President Johnson, Trustee Renucci,
Here.
Commissioner Arndt,
Here.
Commissioner Batani,
Here.
Commissioner Hayes,
Here.
Commissioner Leaderhouse,
Here.
and Commissioner Morath.
Here.
President Seeger is excused.
Okay, citizen participation per Village Resolution 2017-01. Anyone wishing to address the Plan Commission during citizen participation will be allowed 5 minutes. Your subject can be anything, whether on the agenda or not. The Plan Commission should not engage in a discussion regarding comments because it was not part of the publicly noticed agenda. Upon conclusion of this citizen participation segment, members of the audience are not allowed further comment unless they are participating in a public hearing or if specifically allowed by a majority vote of the Plan Commission due to involvement in an agenda item. That said, going once, going twice. Okay, we will close citizen participation. I'll just remind everyone that Tim Schwecke is appearing remote tonight, so if we're talking, please try to use your mics.
Watch what you say.
That goes without saying, and this is being recorded. Okay, item 6, approve Plan Commission minutes for June 13th and the June 27th special meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, condominium plat for 2 multi-tenant industrial buildings, total of 24 units located at 2460 Executive Drive, East Troy Investment LLC, Tim Shekel and Jared Randall, application 2022-25. And we see Tim's memo here. Does anybody have any questions for Tim? Tim, anything you need to highlight for us?
I have a couple of questions. I'm looking at the paper from Lynch and Associates dated July 20th, for the explanation, I guess, of some of what's being done. I have a question in item 1. Is lot the correct word to use on the condo plat? You know, the condominium plat at the very top, it says condominium plat as opposed to, should it be a building? I mean, because to me, plat denotes property, land. I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
So that's a good question. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Tim.
Okay. So basically, much like a subdivision plat creates parcels, a condo plat creates a legal description for parts of a parcel. So in essence, we're creating a legal description for each of the independent units. And then basically they have ownership of that plus all of the common elements. So typically they are referred to as, units or something like that. And that terminology really doesn't matter when it comes to a condo plat.
Okay, I that's fine, because I wrote down exactly what you just said here as far as, called units or suites or whatever, but that's fine, as long as it works.
Any other questions for Tim?
So actually, I
Should it
do
be
have
mentioned- I can't remember, is it mentioned in here that combining units is allowed?
That's a good question. I'm not sure that I can answer it. Obviously,
Tim, it was
somebody
discussed
can
when
buy
this was
two.
being proposed, that some companies may want to get 1, 2, or 3 units at a time, depending upon how much space they require to start.
Right. So is the applicant in the audience that they could be able to answer that?
He's here.
Jared Randall here. Hi, Tim. Yes, my plan is to have these things, if somebody wants 2, 3, 4, we can combine them. I don't know if it's in the wording from Tim Lynch, I don't know if it needs to be, but that is my plan.
So Jared, as long as you're there, I've got a question with regard to the condo doc. It refers to deed restrictions. Were you planning on adopting deed restrictions in addition to the condo docs?
I don't know. That'd probably be a question for my attorney, Michelle Martin. What does that mean? I mean,
So, I think your attorney drafted it so that the deed restrictions can be incorporated. Essentially, they are private restrictions apart from the condominium. And here again, the way that the condo doc was drafted, it refers to those deed restrictions as being a part of the condominium documentation, and they weren't provided. So the question is whether they're to be included or not. And quite frankly, it's probably irrelevant to the village because they are private agreements. But we just want to make sure that the condo doc is correctly drafted, one way or the other.
I'll look into that a little bit more with Michelle, but it does ring a bell that it is included. It makes sense.
So the other question is, did you review the comments from Lynch and Associates?
Good. And there was a list of like 9 questions that I believe got answered from him last week.
So I'm just asking, just in case you had any questions with regard to that.
No, let's see. Typo. Suite numbers we got under control. The dimensions of the building I think were answered. Dimensions. The common areas were labeled incorrectly. I think that was done. LP not included in legend. I don't know what that means. The light pole locations, we took some of the light poles out. On that plan there, we're trying to put light packs or wall packs on the building and get rid of some of those light poles that was drawn incorrectly. The approach light poles is what we wanted to keep, and then wall packs the rest of the building. I think the last meeting we had, our foot candles were way high. So he was supposed to put that in there. That's something we got to look into. That is not on that plan that I'm seeing in front of me, that the poles are still there. Maybe I got to resubmit that, but Blake Tyson, that's handling my lighting, was supposed to submit that.
Tim, it's Fortune here. I have a question. Is that, and I can't remember, is it a requirement that they have lighting at the driveway entrance?
It's not a requirement per se, but they do have to meet the lighting requirements at the property boundary lines.
Yeah,
So-
I think with lighting the approaches and wall packs around the building, we fit that light candle that we needed.
I understand. I just seen buildings and some of the businesses out in the farther reaches out of town that at night they were open for business, but you had to almost have another spotlight to find the driveway because there was no light, or the lamps, the poles that were there weren't working.
Sure. As long as our foot candles are up to par, I think we wouldn't have that issue, but the light poles are just extremely expensive.
Tim, so I don't want to, drag this out. I mean, can we approve this tonight with assuming that you all come to an agreement on these so it can go to the village board, or do we need to make further updates to this and bring it back.
No, I just wanted to point out, that the town or that the village engineer did have those comments and, as long as Jared was there to see if there was any, outstanding issues at his end. It doesn't seem to be. So to answer your question, yes, there is a motion for your consideration. Again, this is a motion recommending to the village board. There were the 4 general conditions, and then there are 2 specific conditions listed as part of that motion.
Anybody have other questions for the applicant or for Tim? Question on the.
So it would be on the previous page, would be the start of the motion.
The proposed motion would then include the general conditions, correct?
Correct.
All right, I'll make a motion to recommend to the village board the approval of the proposed condominium plat based on the general and specific conditions listed below. The general conditions 1 through 4 and the specific conditions 1 and 2.
I'll second. All right, there's motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you. Item 8, amend the zoning code in regards to driveway standards and off-street parking design requirements and other matters, application 2022-26. So I'll open the public hearing. Mary, do you have anything you would like to add?
It would be, if I may, it would probably be considered okay, or it would be considered legal nonconforming. Correct?
Tim can't hear the question since the mic wasn't being used.
Yes, I could not hear your question.
I guess my basic question, Tim, is this new ordinance applies to new construction, new properties coming into the village of East Troy. Properties that are already existing would be, as they just said to me, considered non-conforming. And obviously, they're okay. We're not going after people to change things because of this ordinance.
That's correct. Basically, everything that would not be consistent with the change would be a non-conforming, situation, just like the previous set of development standards. But to answer the other part of your question, so yes, this would apply to all lots, existing and future. And somebody could come in tomorrow that, doesn't necessarily comply, but they could, develop under this standard as long as they meet all the conditions of approval.
So if a property was to be sold in this community and it had a non-conforming driveway, could that actually require a person to reconstruct their driveway to meet the zoning where they can sell the property?
Short answer is no. If there's a non-conforming situation, it's allowed to exist without any problem.
But if they wish to change it, they would be allowed to?
Well, any change to the driveway would have to obviously meet the new standards. And it should be pointed out that the new standards are much more, lenient in terms of, how much of the, front yard can be, the driveway with the taper. So this should lessen any kind of existing nonconformities if there are any.
Thank you.
Mary, can you hit the button? What the public hearing's for, Mary. All right. Seeing that there's no one else here, I'm going to close the public hearing. Any other questions or discussions from the board, or the commission, I should say?
I think this is exactly what we were shooting for, less restrictions, allowing people to use their driveways and their garages, so. Right, I will, make a motion to recommend to the village board the approval of the proposed ordinance as drafted. I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 9, recommendations for future agendas, no packet materials. So, bullet 1, revised application requirements for rezoning petitions, and item 2, potential regulations for franchise establishments in the downtown area. Are there any other items that we would like to have added to future agendas?
I got one.
Yeah.
I know, Tim, if you remember, we discussed this a while back about, I brought it up and Scott said it was not the time to discuss it when we just passed this issue. And my suggestion was, Tim, you remember this problem we had in the past about homes that have garage entries on the side of the house, where if they're pushed up right to the limits of the front lot line, that there isn't enough room according to ordinances for driveway and for cars to make the swing around to get into a garage that's on the side of the home. And that maybe we should direct home builders to push the house back farther from the front lot line to allow entry into a side entry garage.
Okay, I don't have the perfect solution right now, but yeah, that can be added.
Well, I just thought it would behoove us to look at that now so that we can then give that proper information to developers so that they don't say, oh, well, I'm sorry, we already got the foundation in.
Yep, that makes sense.
Other items? You seem very, very insistent about to say something, so I was
just gonna make a motion to adjourn, but that's...
Well, hang on. Next meeting is September 12th, 6:30. Needed. Now, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.